Okay, good morning from Las Vegas again. It's our last day at the trade show and we'll be heading home tomorrow. But we're on chapter 5. And so far we've talked about defined initiation. We've gone through, we talked about the work of the hierarchy. We talked about the founding of the hierarchy. Its appearance on the planet, the immediate effect and the opening of the door of initiation. And today we're going to talk about the 3 departments of the hierarchy, the work of the Manu, the work of the world teacher, the Christ, and the work of the Lord of the civilization, the Meha Chohan. And let's go ahead and get started. We have already dealt with the subject of the founding of the hierarchy upon earth, and we saw how it came to be, touching likewise upon certain crises which have occurred and which still affect events in the present time. In dealing with the work and aims of the personnel of the hierarchy, it will not be possible to state what those aims have been, nor to consider in detail who the active personalities have been during the past millennia of years since the hierarchy came into existence. Many great beings from the planetary and solar sources, and once or twice from cosmic sources, have at times lent their aid and dwelt briefly upon our planet. By the energy which flowed through them, and by their profound wisdom and experience, they stimulated Earth's evolutions and brought the purpose of the planetary logo so much the nearer to completion. Then they passed on, and their places were taken by those among the members of the hierarchy who were willing to undergo a specific training and expansion of consciousness. In turn, these adepts and masters had their places filled by initiates, and thus constantly has there been opportunity for disciples and highly evolved men and women to pass into the ranks of the hierarchy, and thus constantly has there been a circulation of new life and blood and the coming in of those who belong to a particular period or age. Some of the great names during the later periods are known to history, such as Sri Sankaracharya, Vyasa, Muhammad, Jesus of Nazareth, and Krishna, down to those lesser initiates, Paul of Tarsus, Luther, and certain of the outstanding lights in European history. Always have these men and women been agents for the carrying out of race purpose, for the bringing about of group conditions, and for the furthering of the evolution of humanity. Sometimes they have appeared as beneficent forces, bringing peace and contentment with them. More often have they come as agents of destruction, breaking up the old forms of religion and of government in order that the life within the rapidly crystallizing form might be set free and build for itself a newer and a better vehicle. Much that is stated here is already well known and has already been given out in the different occult books. Yet in the wise and careful enunciation of collected facts and their correlation with that which may be new to some students comes an eventual synthetic grasp of the great plan and a wise uniform realization as to the work of that great group of liberated souls who in utter self-abnegation stand silently behind the world panorama. And this seems to be so true. And the more we study and put the pieces together from the different books of the Ageless Wisdom and the events as they're specifically discussed, because this book was written very early, the other books were, being done, towards World War II and after World War II. So we get to see that continuity of change that takes place. and how these things have come about. And if we consider beyond that, past when the books were written, I want to say in the early 50s, we can look at the events from then up until now, and kind of still see, because we have the background in intelligence, an intelligence background, we can see how it has continued on. We can note where we're at today, and we can see what's happening around us in a much clearer way. And then, we will not be surprised as events move forward. And there's a chance that some will even be able to, aid in this, if that's their purpose. And some of us will work in other ways. But this is truly amazing stuff to be able to put all the pieces together. So through the power of their will, the strength of their meditations, the wisdom of their plans, and the scientific knowledge of energy, which is theirs, they direct those force currents and control those form-building agencies which produce all that is seen and unseen, movable and immovable in the sphere of creation within the three worlds. This, coupled to their vast experience, is what fits them to be the agents for the distribution of the energy of the planetary logos. Because we've seen that, these aspects, there's the creative aspect, there's the sustaining, and also the destructive. And these are all beneficent forces, and not to be confused with, dark forces or black magic or black magicians. As has already been stated, at the head of affairs, controlling each unit and directing all evolution, stands the king, the lord of the world, Sanat Kumara, the youth of endless summers, and the fountainhead of the will, showing forth as love of the planetary logos. Cooperating with him as his advisors are three personalities called the Pratyeka Buddhas, or the Buddhas of activity. These four are the embodiment of active, intelligent, loving will. They are the full flowering of the intelligence, having achieved in an earlier solar system that which man is now striving to perfect. In earlier cycles in this system, they began to demonstrate intelligent love, and from the standpoint of the average human being, they are perfect love and perfect intelligence, though from the standpoint of that existence who embraces even our planetary scheme and body of manifestation, that love aspect is as yet but in process of developing, and the will is only embryonic. Another solar system will see the will aspect come to fruition as love will mature in this. And that's a very deep concept, but we're talking about the seven solar systems, and then each one doing its work to bring about these energetic changes. We're just going to keep reading, but know that we're going to discuss this deeper in the other books as well. So standing around the Lord of the world, but withdrawn and esoteric, are three more Kumaras who make the seven of planetary manifestation. Their work is to us necessarily obscure. The three exoteric Buddhas or Kumaras are the sum total of activity or planetary energy, and the three esoteric Kumaras embody types of energy which as yet are not in full demonstration upon our planet. Each of these six Kumaras is a reflection of and the distributing agent for the energy and force of one of the six other planetary logoi, the remaining six spirits before the throne. Sanat Kumara alone in this scheme is self-sustaining and self-sufficient, being the physical incarnation of one of the planetary logoi, which one is not permissible to state, as this fact is one of the secrets of initiation. Through each of them passes the life force of one of the 6 rays, and in considering them, one might sum up their work and position as follows. 1, they each embody one of the 6 types of energy, with the Lord of the world as the synthesizer and the embodier of the perfect 7th type, our planetary type. 2, they are distinguished by one of the 6 colors, with the Lord of the world showing forth the full planetary color, these 6 being subsidiary. 3, their work is therefore concerned not only with force distribution, but with the passing into our scheme from other planetary schemes of egos seeking Earth experience. Each of them is in direct communication with one or other of the sacred planets. 5, and lastly, according to astrological conditions, and according to the turning of the planetary wheel of life, so one or another of these Kumaras will be active. The 3 Buddhas of activity change from time to time and become in turn exoteric or esoteric, as the case may be. Only the king persists steadily and watchfully in active physical incarnation. Besides these main presiding personalities in the council chamber at Shambhala, there is a group of 4 beings who are the representatives upon the planet of the 4 Maharajas, or the 4 lords of karma in the solar system, who are specifically concerned with the evolution at the present time of the human kingdom. These 4 are connected with 1, the distribution of karma, or human destiny as it affects individuals, and through the individuals, the groups. 2, the care and tabulation of the Akashic records. They are concerned with the halls of records, or with the keeping of the book, as it is called in the Christian Bible. They are known in the Christian world as the recording angels. And 3, the participation in solar councils. They alone have the right during the world cycle to pass beyond the periphery of the planetary scheme and to participate in the councils of the solar logos. Thus, they are literally planetary mediators, representing our planetary logos and all that concerns him in the greater scheme of which he is but part. Now, the interesting part about that is also they can be associated, as we read in some of the other books, with specific planets, which is, but that's how these books work. We pick up a piece here and we pick up a piece later and over here, and then these things come together, and the understanding continues to build. Cooperating with these karmic lords are the large groups of initiates and devas who occupy themselves with the right adjustment of A, world karma, B, racial karma, C, national karma, D, group karma, and E, individual karma. So there's a lot going on here. There's just about every different variation taking place. It's very difficult to make any sort of judgment or to categorize anything into any one group. We really don't know how these things are being worked out. And they're responsible to the planetary logos for the correct manipulation of those forces and building agencies, which bring in the right egos on the different rays at the correct times and seasons. So certain energies will be more prevalent during certain times, and certain egos will be there to work out certain types of energy to bring it to likely a higher manifestation. With all these groups, we have little concern, for they are contacted only by initiates of the 3rd initiation and by those of even more exalted rank. The remaining personnel of the hierarchy is divided into 3 main or 4 subsidiary groups, Each of these groups, as will be seen by reference to the appended chart, being presided over by one of those whom we call the three great lords. And that chart, we'll have to see what that is. It might be the Constitution of Man chart. I'm not. No, that doesn't seem like it will be right. We'll have to just see. The chart is not right here. I do have the book. Okay, there is a chart here, and it's pretty obscure. I don't know if this can be seen here. I don't have this. I don't have a digital copy of this. I wonder if I can. I'll have to try to take a picture of this and then make it. Maybe attach it to the notes on the video. That way it can be looked at. All right, so now we're going to get into the work of the Manu. The work of the Manu presides over group 1. He is called Vivasta Manu, and is the Manu of the 5th root race. He is the ideal man or thinker and sets the type for our Aryan race, having presided over its destinies since its inception nearly 100,000 years ago. And obviously, if you don't know this, the Aryan race is not it has nothing to do with any sort of color or ethnicity. It's in terms of evolution, and you can see how these terms have been, altered over times. But other Manus have come and gone, and his place will be in the relatively near future taken by someone else. He will then pass on to other work of a more exalted kind, and that's always the case. The Manu, or the prototype of the 4th root race, works in close cooperation with him and has his center of influence in China. He is the 2nd Manu that the 4th root race has had, having taken the place of the earlier Manu at the time of the final stages of Atlantean destruction. He has remained to foster the development of the race type and to bring about its final disappearance. The periods of office of all the Manus overlap, but there remains no representative of the 3rd root race upon the globe at this time. Vivasta Manu has his dwelling place in the Himalaya mountains and has gathered around him at Shigatse some of those immediately connected with Aryan affairs in India, Europe, and America, and those who will later be concerned with the coming 6th root race. The plans are prepared for ages ahead. Centers of energy are formed thousands of years before they will be required, and in the wise foreknowledge of these divine men, nothing is left to sudden eventuation, but all moves in ordered cycles and under rule and law, though within karmic limitations. The work of the Manu is largely concerned with government, the planetary politics, and with the founding, direction, and dissolution of racial types and forms. To him is committed the will and purpose of the planetary logos. He knows what is the immediate objective for this cycle of evolution over which he has to preside, and his work concerns itself with making that will an accomplished fact. He works in closer cooperation with the building of Devas than does his brother, the Christ, for to him is given the work of setting the race type, of segregating the groups out of which races will develop, of manipulating the forces which move the Earth's crust, of raising and lowering continents, of directing the minds of statesmen everywhere, so that racial government will proceed as desired, and conditions will be brought about which produce those needed for the fostering of any particular type. Such a work can now be seen demonstrating in North America and Australia. Now we've got to keep in mind this was in the written originally in the 20s. The energy which flows through him emanates from the head center, the planetary logos, passing to him through the brain of Sanat Kumara, who focalizes all the planetary energy within himself. He works by the means of a dynamic meditation conducted within the head center and produces his results through his perfect realization of that which has to be accomplished, through a power to visualize that which must be done and to bring about accomplishment, and through a capacity to transmit creative and destructive energy to those who are his assistants. And all this is brought about through the power of the enunciated sound. And now we have the work of the world teacher, the Christ. Group 2 has the world teacher for its presiding head. He is that great being whom the Christian calls the Christ. He is known also in the Orient as the Bodhisattva and as the Lord Maitreya, and is the one looked for by the devout Mohammedan under the name of the Imam Mahdi. He it is who has presided over the destinies of life since about 600 BC, and he it is who has come out among men before and who is again looked for. He is the great Lord of love and of compassion, just as his predecessor, the Buddha, was the Lord of wisdom. Through him flows the energy of the second aspect, reaching him direct from the heart center of the planetary logos via the heart of Sanat Kumara. He works by means of meditation centered within the heart. Now, if you can imagine this energy and creativity, this impulses are, emanating from one and are being, sent out in directions. And so there's a differentiation of the one energy or one ray or, the one, and it's being, sent in different directions with creative purpose and will, and manifesting here all over. He is the world teacher, the master of masters, and the instructor of angels, and to him is committed the guidance of the spiritual destinies of men and the development of the realization within each human being that he is a child of God and a son of the Most High. Just as the Manu is occupied with providing the type and forms through which consciousness can evolve and gather experience, thus making existence in its deepest sense possible, so the world teacher directs that indwelling consciousness in its life or spirit aspect, seeking to energize it within the form, so that in due course of time, that form can be discarded and the liberated spirit return whence it came. Ever since he left the earth, as related with approximate accuracy in the Bible story, though with much error in detail, he has stayed with the sons of men. Never has he really gone, but only in appearance, and in a physical body he can be found by those who know the way, dwelling in the Himalayas and working in close cooperation with his two great brothers, the Manu and the Maha Chohan. Sorry. Daily he pours out his blessings on the world, and daily he stands under the great pine in his garden at the sunset hour with his hands uplifted in blessing over all those who truly and earnestly seek to aspire. To him, all seekers are known, and though they may remain unaware of him, the light which he pours forth stimulates their desire, fosters the spark of struggling life, and spurs on the aspirant until the momentous day dawns when they stand face to face with the one who, by being lifted up, occultly understood, is drawing all men unto himself as the initiator of the sacred mysteries. All right, so that was the world teacher, Christ, and now this is the Lord of civilization, the Maha Chohan. Group 3 has at its head the Maha Chohan. His rule over the group persists for a longer period than that of his two brothers, and he may hold office for the term of several root races. Now, this is something that is, these are time frames that are very difficult to contemplate. It's really an incredible amount of time, but when you consider, this is no short work. So when, as we're committing to these things, and these things are being committed to by these great beings, it is a sacrifice. You see that, then we understand the word, what sacrifice means. He is the sum total of the intelligence aspect. The present Maha Chohan is not the original one who held the office at the founding of the hierarchy in the Lemurian days. It was then held by one of the Kumaras, or Lords of the Flame, who came into incarnation with Sanat Kumara, but he took hold of his position during the second subrace of the Atlantean root race. He had achieved a depthship on the moon chain, and it was through his instrumentality that a large number of great present, more advanced human beings came into incarnation in the middle of the Atlantean root race. Karmic affiliation with him was one of the predisposing causes, thus making this eventually possible. His work concerns itself with the fostering and strengthening of that relation between spirit and matter, life and form, the self and the not self, which results in what we call civilization. He manipulates the forces of nature and is largely the emanating source of electrical energy as we know it. Being the reflection of the third or creative aspect, energy from the planetary logos flows to him from the throat center, and he it is who in many ways makes the work of his brothers possible. Their plans and desires are submitted to him, and through him pass the instructions to a large number of the Deva agents. This is so interesting to correlate, the macrocosm with the microcosm, and considering these things in our own being as well on a much smaller scale as we're reading this. Thus you have will, love, and intelligence represented in these three great lords. You have the self, the not self, and the relation between synthesized in the unity of manifestation. You have racial government, religion, and civilization forming a coherent whole. And you have physical manifestation, the love or desire aspect, and the mind of the planetary logos working out into objectivity. The closest cooperation and unity exists between these three personalities, and every move and plan and event exists in their united foreknowledge. So we would have to consider that just as we are mind, body and soul, and this all works together on the physical, astral, and mental plane, the three, the lower three, also that is how it's working above. And that's kind of what it's saying here. The closest cooperation and unity exists between these three personalities, and every move and plan and event exists in their united foreknowledge, just like our beingness is our body and mind and so, are united here in full cooperation as well. They are in daily touch with the Lord of the world at Shambhala, and the entire guidance of affairs rests in their hands and in those of the Manu of the fourth root race. The world teacher holds office in connection with both the fourth and fifth root race. Each of these departmental heads directs a number of subsidiary offices, and the department of the Maha Chohan is divided into 5 divisions, so as to take in the 4 lesser aspects of hierarchical rule. Under the Manu work the regents of the different world divisions, such as, for instance, the Master Jupiter, the oldest of the masters now working in physical bodies for humanity, who is the regent for India, the Master Rakosi, who is the regent for Europe and America. Now these are much older. We don't know that these are still in play, but it must be remembered here that though the Master R, for instance, belongs to the 7th ray, and thus comes under the Department of Energy of the Maha Chohan, yet in hierarchical work, he may and does hold office temporarily under the Manu. These regents hold in their hands and reins of government for continents and nations, the reins of government. They hold in their hands the reins of government for continents and nations, thus guiding, even if unknown, their destinies. They impress and inspire statesmen and rulers. They pour forth mental energy on governing groups, thus bringing about the desired results wherever cooperation and receptive intuition can be found amongst the thinkers. So that's a pretty important sentence there. They pour forth mental energy on governing groups, thus bringing about the desired results wherever cooperation and receptive intuition can be found amongst the thinkers. And in some of the other books, we're looking at those who have an impact on the masses, whether it be media or newspaper, writers, director, all these government agencies. So the world teacher presides over the destiny of the great religions through the medium of a group master, of a group of masters and initiates who direct the activities of these different schools of thought. In illustration, the Master Jesus, the inspirer and director of the Christian churches everywhere, though an adept on the 6th ray under the department of the Maha Chohan, works at present under the Christ for the welfare of Christianity. Other masters hold similar posts in relation to the great Oriental faiths and the various Occidental schools of thought. In the department of the Maha Chohan, a large number of masters in 5-fold division work in connection with the Deva evolution and with the intelligence aspect in man. Their divisions follow those of the 4 minor rays of attribute, which are the ray of harmony or beauty, the ray of concrete science or knowledge, the ray of devotion or abstract idealism, and the ray of ceremonial law or magic, just as the 3 departmental heads represented. So what we're looking at there is the ray of ceremonial law or magic is the 7th ray. The ray of devotion or abstract idealism is 6th. Ray of concrete science or knowledge is 5th. And the ray of harmony and beauty is 4th. And then we're going on. And this is just as departmental heads represent the 3 major rays of the first ray is will or power, the 2nd ray, love or wisdom, and the 3rd, active intelligence or adaptability. The 4 rays or attributes of mind, with the 3rd ray of intelligence, as synthesized by the Maha Chohan, make up the sum total of the 5th principle of mind or manas. 4 rays of attributes of mind that we talked about, the lower 4, or 4, 5, 6, and 7, with the 3rd ray of intelligence, okay, as synthesized by the Maha-Chohan, okay, make up the sum total of the 5th principle of mind. So that, that we're saying, the mind is stemming from active intelligence or adaptability. And this would be indicative of the 357 line, or I guess, or the 3rd and 5th ray being in cooperation there, just as 2, 4, and 6 are generally also. So very interesting here. Wow. Okay. Well, there's a lot going on here, just as always. It says there's another chart to look at here. I'm going to have to try to find this chart, and I will put it into the notes on this video as soon as I can find it. All right. Well, that's the end of chapter 5. And we will get into chapter 6 tomorrow morning. So hope everybody has a good day. Thanks, and we'll see you again soon. Lots of contemplating to do. Okay.